The bird on your lawn is not afraid of you, and that should worry you a little. One wing sits at a wrong angle. You go inside for a box. When you come back, something has already changed. The bird is watching you. Not the fence, not the sky, not the gap under the gate where a cat might come from. You. It tracked you to the door, and it tracked you back out. And now it's doing something that most people would describe as waiting. But that isn't quite the right word. It's deciding. The question is, what exactly is it deciding about you? What you're about to find out is that the birds in your yard understand more about your intentions than most people ever tell you. They can read a threat from a helper before you've taken a single step toward them. They carry your face in memory for years, and when they learn something about you, they pass that information to birds who have never met you. And one species, the one you've almost certainly seen this week, chose to return to a human long after the food was gone, for no reason researchers could explain except one. The final section of this video is about a choice one species made after the transaction was finished and there was nothing left to gain. What that choice was is the part that changes everything. 1. You've probably done it. You see a bird on the pavement, stunned after hitting a window, and you crouch down to check on it. The bird doesn't move. You reach out a hand. And here's what almost everyone gets wrong. They assume the bird is too shocked to care or too injured to process anything at all. It's processing everything. Behavioral ecologists call it the flight initiation distance, the exact point at which a bird decides to flee. But that distance isn't a fixed number. UCLA researcher Daniel Blumstein spent decades mapping it across hundreds of species and found it shifts with every variable: your angle of approach, how fast you're moving, whether you make direct eye contact. A person walking straight at a bird triggers flight. The same person, angled slightly away, slowing at 15 meters, often doesn't. Birds aren't reacting to human. They're reading a specific body. Right now, the bird on your pavement is running a calculation. Your body language is the only data it has. But there's a second layer to this, and most people never reach it. Because the bird isn't just reading you in this moment, it already knows you. 2. Most people believe birds are indifferent to individual humans, that one person is as good as another. That assumption is wrong by a margin that should stop you cold. In a series of studies at the University of Washington, researcher John Marsleff had volunteers wear specific masks while trapping and banding crows on campus. Later, those same volunteers walked the campus without the masks. Nothing happened. The moment they put the masks back on, the crows mobbed them. Weeks later, months later, 2.7 years later, in the longest documented case, the crows had stored the threat face, not human, that specific face. But here's what most people never hear. Crows who hadn't been present during the original trapping also learned to mob the mask. They were taught by the ones who had been caught. Jackdaws and several other corvid species have shown the same recognition in controlled conditions. The bird watching you from your fence isn't watching a generic presence. It's watching a known one, and somewhere in the flock others already know what it knows. Which raises a question no one asks out loud. If they remember the face that trapped them, do they also remember the one that helped? 3. A bird that sees you every day is building something. Every pass along the same path, every visit to the same feeder, every time you move through the same corner of the yard. It's assembling what behavioral ecologists call a behavioral signature, a predictive model of you built from observation. Research on individually marked garden birds has shown that robins, blackbirds, and tits respond differently to regular visitors versus strangers, in alarm calls and in how quickly they return to normal activity after a disturbance. Regular humans produce faster recovery, not because the birds have been trained, because they've built a baseline, and you, moving through your yard the usual way, confirm it. Your yard's birds know your schedule. The ones that stay low when a stranger passes the gate but carry on foraging when it's you, they aren't being calm by accident. They've categorized you, and the category they assigned you was your choice to make, even if you never knew you were choosing. What happens when a bird in your yard calls out, and who is actually listening takes that even further? 4. Most people, when they hear a bird alarm, look for the cat, the hawk, the obvious thing, And sometimes that's right, but the call isn't only for them. Research at the University of Bristol and the Australian National University has established that certain bird species produce what are called functionally referential alarm calls, calls that encode specific information about the type of threat and how urgent it is. Other birds aren't the only ones listening. Squirrels respond, deer respond. The ambient alarm system wires everything in range, including you, even if you've never consciously noticed it. Your heart rate changes, your attention sharpens, you look up. The bird calling from your oak tree may be talking to you as much as to anything else. There is one species for which that connection ran far deeper than anyone expected. You've just never been told to listen for it. 5. This is the part most people have never heard. Wildlife rehabilitators in the United Kingdom have documented this for years. Birds brought in for care showed measurable behavioral differences depending on whether their first human contact had been calm or agitated. Not just in the short term, across the full rehabilitation period, weeks in some cases. Birds handled calmly during initial intake, quieter movements, lower voices, slower transitions, settled back into normal behavior faster, measurably faster. The British Trust for Ornithology has noted that first handling sets a template shaping the entire care period. The bird isn't learning safe or unsafe. It's building something closer to, this is how humans move when they aren't going to hurt me. A first impression. In a bird. The window is minutes wide in some species. When you reach toward an injured bird in your yard, the angle of your hand, how fast you move, whether you hold your breath or exhale slowly, you are not simply picking up an animal. You are being assessed. And what one species does with that assessment, months after a single interaction, is where this gets difficult to explain. 6. There is one species that takes this further, in a direction no one fully anticipated. The common raven. Not a rare bird, not a lab animal. The one you pass on the road, the one that watches from a fence post with that particular stillness. Researchers in Austria and Sweden gave 9 ravens a simple exchange. Offer bread, receive cheese. Then the terms changed. Some experimenters stayed fair, bread for cheese every time. Others took the bread and ate the cheese themselves, right in front of the bird. The ravens noticed immediately. But the more significant finding came a month later. When each raven was presented with 3 people, the fair one, the cheater, and a stranger, you'd expect roughly equal selection across all 3. That's not what happened. All but 2 chose the fair experimenter. Not for any incentive. There was no food on offer. The exchange was over. They chose the person who had treated them honestly. Once. A month ago. They were calmer with that person. Closer. They returned to them in conditions where there was nothing left to gain. The raven on your fence post has a history you know nothing about. Someone, at some point, did right by it, and it remembered.